let's dig in. I want to bring up a couple of these
Yeah.
myths, and I'd love to hear your these aha moments, really, because that's what they are.
Okay.
First one here, I think this is the biggest one. It says, first myth is a tight muscle always needs stretching, which is something I always believe. Like, oh man, I'm gonna stretch it out now, but that's
Yeah.
actually a myth, isn't it?
Yeah, and I actually love that you started with that myth because it helps introduce this approach a bit better from the start. Basically, if you can imagine that this band here is a muscle, and when you take the band and bring it farther apart, we would typically call that stretching. And you may notice when I stretch the band out that it actually gets thinner, potentially weaker and tighter. So really interesting to actually see that visual. And a lot of people think that just because something is tense or tight that it needs stretching, but imagine that this muscle was already too stretched because it was out of balance with the opposite side. So you have an overstretched muscle that may have actually become more stretched because of whatever activities that you're constantly doing. And if we actually do a particular stretch to make it even longer, it might actually be making the situation worse. So it's okay if you want to just very gently, if it's an already too stretched muscle and you just want to very mildly stretch it a little bit more for maybe 10, 20 seconds, just to bring a little blood and oxygen to it, that's fine. The key word is gentle. But to really start to get to the cause of the issue, if you have an overstretched muscle, we want to shorten it. And there's two main ways that we can shorten a muscle through this neuromuscular balancing approach. Basically, one is whenever you do strength training exercises, that will shorten a muscle. So you can shorten through strength training. That's one of the most familiar ways that people already know how to work out. A lot of times people may not know what muscle groups to strengthen or to focus on the most, or that strengthening necessarily means to shorten it. They might just think strengthening it is just getting stronger. So just kind of reframing it a bit. And then another way that you can shorten an overstretched muscle is to take the tension out of it. And this is called strain counter strain is the scientific name. It's a clinically proven osteopathic technique developed in the 1950s. So if you have an overstretched muscle, you can just take the tension out of it by bringing the two ends of the muscle closer together. And you can see how it goes into this slackened limp state. And when you put a muscle into slack, whatever pain and tension was there should either be minimized or non-existent. So it's quite powerful because if you can get past the neuromuscular response of about 1 minute of allowing a particular muscle or muscle group to stay in this released position, then when you come out of that position, it should actually stay. And you can keep doing these exercises over a period of time. So you retrain your brain and muscles to go back into balance and basically allow you to perform. So it's not just because something's tight doesn't mean it needs more stretching. It might mean that it's tight and overstretched and needs to be either slackened or strengthened shorter to create more balance. And just one of the quick ways that I explain neuromuscular balancing, because it's not a name that a lot of people are probably familiar with, is the brain and muscles are working together. So whenever you are in a certain position or performing an activity, there's always a feedback going on, and muscles actually have a stored memory too of certain actions. So whenever you, let's say, are in a stretch and you are doing that stretch for longer than 1 minute, for example, the brain can actually relax, and the stress response aspect can relax so that muscle basically has permission to do this new habit. And simply put, I generally will share neuromuscular balancing as it's a three-pronged approach where we're using either stretching, strengthening, or slackening to get muscles that are short, longer, and muscles that are long, shorter. And it's as simple as that. And when you balance muscles, it will improve overall performance, whether you're an athlete or just your daily and lifelong wellness. And the body works best when opposing muscle groups are balanced, essentially.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like you said, that sounds like common sense, but then, yeah, every time I've ever been tight, it's like, oh, I got to stretch, I got to roll it out, I got to do this. And I'm just putting more pressure and more strain on something that's already strained. Yeah, no, that's right there. That's amazing.